Welcome to The Profitable Web Designer, a podcast for web designers who want to work less and make more money. I'm your host, Shannon Mattern, founder of the Web Designer Academy, where we've helped hundreds of web designers stop undercharging, overworking, and create profitable, sustainable web design businesses. Hey there, welcome back to the Profitable Web Designer podcast. And this week, I have a deep dive lesson for you on Mindtrash. So you probably have heard us talk about Mindtrash on this podcast a million times. And I actually have a lesson inside of the Web Designer Academy that I teach to our students to talk in depth about what Mindtrash is, how it affects us in our business and how it affects our results. I get into some of the science behind how Mindtrash actually affects our behavior and how our behavior affects the results that we create, which is super fascinating. And then I share with you some practical tips for making over your Mindtrash, because I think what I hear from a lot of people when I talk to them, podcast listeners or people who have heard me speak at other places and talked about this, where they're like, yeah, and I think that's just Mindtrash. And so what I want to give you is the next step to be like, okay, if I notice I'm thinking this thing and I have an inkling that it is Mindtrash, how can I confirm that it's Mindtrash? Because sometimes your thoughts might not be positive, but that doesn't necessarily make them Mindtrash. How can you tell if it's Mindtrash? How is that affecting you? And how can you develop the skill of believing new things about yourself? And how do you do that when just thinking a new thought isn't making you like, oh, okay, well, now I believe all of this is true just because I came up with a new thought. So in this week's episode, I wanted to break down for you exactly how to make over your Mindtrash. And I mentioned a workbook in the replay of this lesson. That workbook is exclusively for Web Designer Academy students. However, you can get out a piece of paper and just write thought, feeling, action, results, and for each of those columns that I talk about, and you can do your own Mindtrash makeover without the workbook. So I want to give you one action step to take after you are done listening to this podcast. Make sure you're not like driving or doing anything, anything that you need your full attention for. But think of what is the most Mindtrashy thought I think about my business and run it through this Mindtrash makeover process. I want you to like really understand how that thought is like driving your current results, what you could think instead, and what steps that you might need to take, what bridge thoughts you might need to practice to start believing new things about yourself. And after you listen, I would love to hear from you about your Mindtrash makeover. So email me, shannon@webdesigneracademy.com, and let me know what was your Mindtrashy thought and what is your new thought. I would love to hear from you. So let's dive in to this week's episode all about how to make over your Mindtrash. So something that I did in Next Level that you Next Level people might recognize is I created this tool for them. And I was like, this tool is something that I definitely want to teach to the main Web Designer Academy to help you make over your Mindtrash. Now, we used to have a different tool called Mindtrash Makeover, and it didn't give the results that I wanted. It kind of made you guys spiral more. So this is an updated version of the Mindtrash Makeover tool to help you guys get aware of your Mindtrash and like kind of coach yourself through cleaning it up. So if you attended the retreat that I did back in December, the planning retreat. I called this CEO mindset in that, and I talked about it briefly. But this is like how you would practically apply it to the work you're doing in your business and to the Web Designer Academy. So the premise of this is that your thoughts create your feelings drive you to act. And when you act, you get a result from that action. And so we think something, that thought is like a physiological programming that creates, like releases chemicals in our brain and makes us feel a certain way, right? We feel happy, sad, scared, excited, whatever. And that's a feeling that we feel like in our body, like flushed, or like you can physically feel it when you have certain thoughts. Those thoughts compel you to act in some kind of way. And we'll talk about what that looks like in your specific business. And that action results in something. And so when we have thoughts, that it's only mind trash if it's creating an unwanted result for you. That's the only definition of mind trash. If it's creating a result that you don't want. So an example of how this works is these are just like a laundry list of thoughts I've heard you guys say on these calls or over the years. I'm not good enough. It's not worth it. Let me just add, I'm too expensive to this list. It's so easy. I shouldn't charge that much. I'm ripping people off. I'm bothering people. What if they hate it? What if I mess up? They'll leave a bad review. They won't refer me. I'm just going to add another one that I thought of. I'm not professional enough. I haven't done this before, so I can't charge that much. They can't afford it. I wouldn't pay that much. Like, it's not worth it. If I tell them no, I'll lose them as a client. I'm not making enough money. I don't have my next client lined up. If I don't say yes, now they'll go somewhere else. I'll lose the relationship and referral. I don't know where to find dreaming and investment-minded clients. No one is responding to my outreach. These are all thoughts that you have. And when you think these things, they create feelings in your body. And like a lot of these thoughts, and everybody's different. So the thought it's going to create for you the thoughts are going to create for you are going to just be different based on you, how you're raised, your body chemistry, like whatever. But most of these thoughts create fear and anxiety in the majority of people. And when our brain and body is flooded with the hormones that create the feelings of fear and anxiety, cortisol and adrenaline, we go into our conditioned fear response. And so I have some resources down here. One of my colleagues, for lack of a better term, Lee Cordell of the Institute for Trauma and Psychological Safety, has a whole training on trauma responses and fear responses for entrepreneurs, and a couple of other research that she gave to me. So we have 4 responses to fear and anxiety: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so I was like, okay, well, how do these manifest in our web design business? When something, for me personally, when I'm thinking something that causes fear and anxiety, I go straight into fight mode in business, not in life. I have a different fear response to whatever in life, but in business, I go into fight mode. I go into overwork. So if I'm thinking we're going to open up enrollment for the Web Designer Academy and it's too expensive and no one's going to join, I go into fear and anxiety. And then I thought spiral and I'm like, no one's going to join. I'm not going to be able to pay Allie and Erica. I'm going to have to fire them. They're going to lose their house. Their kids won't be able to eat, and they're all going to be homeless because I won't get enough enrollments because I'm too expensive. That's where my mind goes. And that sends me into fear and anxiety. And then I overwork and I do too many things and I overcomplicate and I thought spiral and I work on the wrong things and I try to do everything. So that's what my fear response is fight. Flight, I see this a lot where you'll pivot offers, you'll change your niche, you'll abandon the package matrix, you'll rebrand, you'll rewrite copy, you'll start the Web Designer Academy. program over. Kate's laughing and nodding, right? We see people do this all the time. So I want you guys to know, like, you are so normal. Like, when you think things that create fear and anxiety and you go into one of these responses, it is so normal. The other one is freeze. So another fear response is freeze, hide, stop marketing, stop coming to calls, stop asking for support. Like, you just pause, you take a break from your business. And Caitlin said, what if I do all four? And I know, like, you're joking, but if you want to get into the nitty gritty, you have some thoughts that cause you fight, some thoughts that cause flight. Like, it just depends on what one it is. So you have freeze, and then you have fawn, which I didn't even know this was a fear response. But when Dr. Lee talked about it, I was like, oh, so you mean when kids were making fun of me in middle school and I would play along with them and laugh along with their jokes, making fun of me, because that was easier than like running away and crying or fighting with them, arguing with them. I'd be like, ha ha ha, yeah, I am a nerd. Like, you know, even though my feelings were hurt and I was nervous and whatever. So when you fawn, you release all boundaries, you take on bad fit clients and low paying projects. You say yes to anything that comes your way, even if you don't like it or do it. You become a people pleaser and you play along and you say yes to everything. So when you think these types of things, you create a fear response in your body that causes you to do one of these things. And when you're doing these things, the result you get is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You don't book new clients. You're not hitting your revenue goals. You're stressed, you're overwhelmed and miserable. And so, because you can see how if you're thinking, I'm too expensive. Now, some people, and I think, Kate, you're an example of this, you can power through those feelings a lot. You can think, I'm too expensive, but I'm going to do it anyway. But the problem is now you're stressed and overwhelmed and like you're spending a lot of like mental energy on it and you're like powering through. Other people, like, powering through just isn't one of their skills. And there's no right or wrong way, but it's still like you're creating the result, but it's not the full result that you want. The result that you want is you feel good about it and it's working, right? So when your brain is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, you actually shut down your higher level of thinking. I did not know this until recently when I was like researching this and looking through Dr. Lee's training, but it literally physically dulls your higher level thinking because you need all of that energy to be able to react to the situation in front of you, whether that's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so when you guys come to these calls and you're like, logically, I know that this isn't true, but I don't believe it yet. It's because you're like still kind of amped up about it. And you can't like get yourself to the place where you can create the really empowering thoughts. So this is like how Mindtrash actually creates unwanted results. It's like a formula. If you think things that make you feel this way, this is what you will do, and you will slow down your results. It's not like you're never going to get results, but it's going to be harder. It's going to go slower. And it's going to be a challenge. So we want to think, feel, and believe things that create wanted results. And how we need to feel to create wanted results is like confident, in control, courageous, right? Some of the other feelings that we talked about, like, how do I need to feel to create the result of, I create clients, money, time, and happiness. Like, I have a profitable, sustainable business. So we need to think things that are going to create the chemical cocktail in our brain of confidence, courage, and in control, and a variety of a million other feelings or emotions. There's a lot of nuance to this one too, but all of the things that you might need to feel to take these actions. And so the opposite of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, I made these up. I made up like, what would the opposite of fight, flight, the fear response be? And I came up with focus, fine, flow, and firm. So with focus, You'll follow the Web Designer Academy processes. When you feel confident and in control, you'll follow our processes. You'll follow the processes that you've seen other people follow in this program and that have created results. Of course, you'll ask questions, you'll get clarification, you'll tweak nuances to work for you and your business, but generally you'll be like, I'm doing it. You'll do the outreach. There's going to be no pressure on you to feel perfect or get an A. I think that one actually kind of goes under fine. You'll follow the time blocks that you set for yourself on your development calendar. You'll do Mindtrash Makeover. So instead of being in an overwork, you're just in work. Like you're just in a normal level of work, not like an overdrive. Instead of fleeing, you're fine. You can be patient. You can slow down. You can stay the course. You're going to follow up with potential clients. There's no pressure to get it right the first time, have everything be perfect, get an A. You'll plant new seeds without expectation of them growing into anything, knowing that just planting the seed is the important thing. You'll maintain your current pricing. You won't revert back into lower prices. You'll use the package matrix and you're fine to hear no. Like no does not scare you. You don't make no mean my prices are too high. You make no mean something different. Instead of freezing, you're in flow. You're doing outreach, creating new relationships, making offers often. Again, you're still okay to hear no. You show up, you ask for support along the way. And instead of fawning, you're firm. You maintain boundaries, maintain client standards, like who you will and won't work with in terms of client standards. You take deposits now to schedule projects later instead of having to do it for everyone now. You raise your prices as needed. You're unattached to people saying no, unattached to the choices that they make via the boundaries that you give them. And when you're able to take these actions from a place of feeling confident and in control, you create clients, money, time, and happiness. And happiness doesn't necessarily mean I got what I wanted. Happiness means I'm okay to let other people make their own decisions and I don't make it mean anything about me. And moving on, I'm going to keep doing the thing. So what do I need to think to feel confident and in control? These are just some examples, but I always figure it out. It's worth doing whether I get the result I want or not. I choose who I work with. Clients aren't choosing me. That is something that one of our Angela said this morning on our global call. She also had 3 inquiries that she said no to. And I was like, amazing. Why did you decline to work with these people? She's like, I decide who I work with and I didn't want to work with them. I didn't like the project. I just didn't like the person. I didn't get a good vibe. And it wasn't coming from a place of I'm not good enough, so I don't want to take on this project. She's just like, I decide who I work with and it's not you. And it was so empowering. It should be easy for me. That's why I get to charge so much. Like those of you that are Squarespace or page builders or have a really simple process that you use on the back end, it should be easy for you. I know how to get a new client anytime I want one. That doesn't necessarily mean you just go pluck one off the tree. You have to plant the seed first, but you know what to do. And you trust the process. I know exactly what to do to create more money. The experience and result of working with me is in demand. This one really helped me with the last Web Designer Academy launch. My best clients will happily pay a deposit wait for me. I'm willing to oversell to fill my project calendar. You don't have that sense of urgency of I have to work with everyone right now. They'll wait to work with me. I'm willing to let clients leave. There are always more on the way. I know how to build new relationships. I'm always planting seeds. I know how to make money. I may not control the timeline, but I always control my actions. So these are just a few of some thoughts that may or may not sound empowering to you. You have to come up with your own. But then there's this messy middle, right? Because a lot of times you guys are like, I really want to believe that this is true. I want to believe this thought is true because I do want to take these actions and I do want to get this result, but I just don't believe it's true yet. I'm not there. And that's this messy middle step where if you can't go all the way from your mind trash to the made over thoughts, there's this middle ground that is going to calm your fear and anxiety brain down enough so that you can access your highest level of thinking and calm yourself down so that you can create new beliefs. You can practice them and start to integrate them, and then they become your new paradigm over time. And so you might need a stepping stone when you identify your mind trash and you want to believe something new, but you're not feeling it. Thinking this doesn't make you feel confident and in control. It makes you feel like a fraud or whatever. You're going to need a messy middle step. And so what evidence do you have that your mind trash is false? Maybe you're in some like black and white thinking. Like this morning, was saying January has been really slow for me, so I need to work on my mind trash about that. And I'm like, the mind trash is January has been really slow. The only fact there is January. You have a judgment about January that it's been slow that's causing you to feel fear and anxiety. So what do you want to believe about January? Right? Like, so there's this messy middle piece where like, I'm going to question my mind trash. What evidence do I have that it's false? Or what do I want to believe is true? Who am I as a person? Like, what do I know about myself as a person? How can I interrupt old thought patterns? So thoughts that you might create to feel calm and willing so that you can make over your mind trash or take some small actions could be, I've gotten this far. I'm willing to believe I might be worth it. I'm willing to believe someone will pay that much. Like, I'm willing to try it and see what happens. Maybe it's okay that it's easy for me. The client gets the same result either way. I've gotten new clients in the past. I've increased my prices and gotten yeses. The clients who said no were not my best clients. I don't think like that anymore. That's a simple one. If you are just like stuck in some mind trash, like I say the example of Allie and Erica and their family being homeless in a van down by the river. And I only say it as an example, but like this was literally a thought that was happening for me. And I had to tell myself, like, I don't think like that anymore. I just literally had to nip that and like shut it down over and over because I'm not going to develop a new, better thought about that. Like, I don't need to make that over. I just need to stop, right? I'm willing to believe new things about myself before I have evidence. I'm the kind of person who figures things out no matter what. How I make money is always my choice. Is that thought really true? Will it stay true forever? So kind of back to the January was a slow month. Says it's slow January could have been someone else's like best month ever, right? So we know that that's not true. She's just judging it. And how is that making her feel? What results is that creating? How could she think about it in a way that's going to make her act this way? So when you create the messy middle, you create belief in yourself. You are able to start letting go and creating that new paradigm and creating those new results. So your actions don't create your results, your thoughts do. And it's really hard to create great results from crappy, mind trashy thoughts. It's possible, but I've experienced this, and I'm sure some of you have. It doesn't feel good. Like when you get there, you're like, that wasn't worth it. And you can get the same result and have it be worth it by really cultivating new thought patterns. So I'm giving this to you guys. I'm going to pop this in the chat so that you have it, but it's also already on the website. I made you guys basically like a Mindtrash Makeover workbook. And so the way this works is really cool because you can either word vomit your current mind trash. If you're really aware of your mind trash, you might be the kind of person that's feeling like you're more in touch with how you're feeling, but you're not sure what thoughts are driving it. And you might know like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, I'm scared, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed. You might be able to start with the feeling. You might be able to start with your action or inaction, right? You know that like, I want to invite people to my presentation, but I'm not like action, not inviting people to my presentation. The results that are happening, right? Not booking clients, whatever that could be. You can start anywhere on this grid. So you might not really know how you're feeling, but you might know how you want to feel. And then you try to identify, okay, well, what would I need to think to feel that way? And if I felt that way, what would I do or stop doing? What result would that create for me? So you have like full freedom to start wherever on this grid to make over your mind trash. You don't have to start with your mind trashy thoughts and then identify the feelings and actions. If that's easiest for you to go in order, cool. But you get to start with whatever you can identify and then like reverse engineer. And what you really want to figure out is like, what am I thinking? How is that causing me to act? And what results am I getting or not getting? And what do I need to think to feel a certain way to take the actions to create the results I want? And do I need a bridge? Because you're like, oh, in a perfect world, I would think that, but I'm not quite there yet. Do I need a bridge thought for that? So what you're going to see from me going forward is when there are mind trashy questions submitted for the live strategy call, I'll probably pull this tool out and I'll ask you some questions like, when you think that, how are you feeling? What are you doing or not doing? And we'll analyze that together. You can also use this to coach yourself. And you can also use this to coach yourself to the point where you're like, okay, now I'm going to submit this for a live strategy call. Let's talk about it, or submit for review if it's not something you want to do on a live strategy call, and we'll walk you through it. But it's a tool you can use to coach yourself. And it's a tool that we get to use here in our live strategy calls as needed to help you work through and start making over some of your mind trash. Hey, so are you finally ready for some help to make the next 12 months your most profitable yet? We're currently accepting applications for the Web Designer Academy, and we're so excited to see if you're a good fit to work with us so that we can help you to stop leaving time and money on the table and create a profitable, sustainable, fulfilling web design business that you love. Simply go to webdesigneracademy.com/apply to get all of the details and find out how you can get exclusive access to our advanced training on how to make the next 12 months of your web design business your most profitable yet. I can't wait to see your application. Bye.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.